So lately I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of German people in person and online, and a common thread I've noticed is that Germans in general just seem to be very well educated and smart. So I decided to look into the German school system and then compare it with the American education system because, to be honest, I see some pretty big and negative differences between the two. I'm just going to come right out and say that as an American, I feel the US school system is very, very broken. And in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons for that is because everything is so standardized. There's just kind of this big blanket thrown over everybody, like this is what you're going to learn and this is how you're going to do it. And that's a terrible way to educate people because people aren't standardized. And that doesn't give any flexibility or leeway for strengths and weaknesses and developing those strengths and weaknesses. And there's so many stories like this, but I just think of, a kid who's in 6th grade who is only capable of 5th grade English but has the aptitude for 8th grade math. So on the one hand, he's really struggling over here, and then on the other hand, he's not being challenged enough. So what happens a lot of times is these really bright kids just end up getting a complete aversion to school. Now, homeschooling has picked up a lot of momentum in the US in the last couple decades, and it started mostly for religious reasons, but also I think because parents started realizing, hey, the public school system is not doing a good job educating my child. And it's come under a lot of heavy criticism, but to be honest with you, most of that criticism is from bureaucrats who are making a little less money because that's one less warm body that's in a desk for 7 hours each day. 7 hours, give or take. But the results really do speak for themselves. You look at spelling bees, geography bees, just different academic competitions like that, and homeschoolers are consistently outperforming public school students. And obviously I'm generalizing, but I can vouch for this because I myself was homeschooled almost all the way through. And I feel I got a very well-rounded education. So what ended up happening was I got tested by 2 different places when I was 7 years old, so that's 2nd grade for Americans. And I was tested for my aptitude in different areas, and both places decided that I should skip a grade. So I ended up graduating a year early, and I just feel that homeschooling has served me very well. So definitely look into it, but that's a different subject, so back to what I was saying. But I remember growing up and having friends in public school, and there was this one girl, we were both 13, so we were both in 8th grade, and she was barely familiar with the Holocaust and just with World War II in general. And I remember being so shocked because I had already been studying things like that for years. And there's just this alarming lack of general knowledge among public school students. Now, a really cool thing I've noticed about Germans is that a lot of them seem to speak about 2 or 3 languages, and then they're familiar with conversational skills and a few more. And that's just amazing to me because most Americans only speak English and maybe just a little bit of Spanish, like me. So I think Germans study a foreign language for about 5 years and their equivalent of high school. And then Americans do it for, I would say, 2 to 4 years, and Spanish and French seem to be the most popular. Yet, Germans speak 2 to 3 languages, Americans generally speak 1, so what happened there? I mean, you ask almost any American if they can speak the language they studied in high school, and they're going to tell you no. You drop off an American who spent 4 years studying French grammar in France, and they're going to be like, gracias, como talibou? Wait, isn't gracias like Spanish? What? No, that's Italian. Another interesting contrast is the length of the school day. So Americans go to school from, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning to about 3:30 in the afternoon. And part of the reason for such a long school day is because the student-to-teacher ratio is just completely out of whack. And teachers can't handle all those students, so there's a lot of disruptions throughout the day. And then what's happening is these kids are getting sent home with an inordinate amount of homework at the end of each day. After a 7-hour school day, they have a ton of homework because that's really the only way the schools can gauge how they're doing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read a couple different places that Germans go to school from about 7:30 or 8 in the morning to only 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're going to school for less hours than Americans, but the gulf between German education and American education is pretty obvious. So what's the difference? I think the difference is that German schools aren't so standardized. It really seems like the student and the student's family get to kind of guide them and make decisions for themselves based on the student's goals and aptitudes and interests. So from my understanding, based on how a student did in primary school, they get to choose their course and pick what kind of high school, higher education they want to pursue. And there's one that's more of a university prep, one that's vocational school, and then one that's kind of a mix of the two. But it seems like all of them offer opportunities for vocational school or an apprenticeship of some kind. And that's amazing because then these 16-year-olds are getting all these life skills and work experience and just kind of honing their skills and figuring out what they want to do. And, you talk to most American 16-year-olds, and if they have a job, which most don't, but if they do, they're probably bagging groceries or bussing tables at a restaurant. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was a waitress for more than a year, and you definitely get some people skills. It's a lot of fun. You walk away with some crazy stories at the end of each day. But ultimately, bussing tables and bagging groceries is not going to help you hone professional skills, and it's not really going to help you figure out what you want to do in life the way an apprenticeship could. One of the programs is called Berufsschule. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But basically, it's part-time academic studies mixed with vocational school. So theoretically, if an 18-year-old completes the vocational program, they can graduate with a certification in a trade. And as an American, that just kind of, because I am a millennial. And I see, people graduating high school, even graduating college, and there's just so much flailing around and really just a complete lack of direction and a lot of confusion about what's coming next. And there's nothing wrong with being in your 20s and not really knowing what you want to do yet. That's where I am right now. I don't really know what I want to do. But in general, I just see a complete lack of direction among my peers. And I know that the German system isn't perfect. I know people there have their issues too. But from an American viewpoint, the German system is just far superior. I feel like students here are just kind of given the same standardized curriculum more or less and then thrown to the wolves in a sense. Whereas in Germany, it really seems to me that each student is guided and shepherded in a direction that caters to their strengths and weaknesses and helps them find a profession, not just a job. And all that said, the more I learn about how German society is structured and how different things are run and just German culture and history, the more I really have a deepening respect for Germany and the more interested I am to learn more. So yeah, this is exciting. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on education systems, whether you're German or American. I would just love to hear it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe below, and I'll see you soon.